when simple explanations are not possible. Scientists typically are looking for the simplest explanation that they can find to account for whatever phenomenon they are observing. Have you ever noticed how when forcing naturalistic assumptions to explain the origin of something, the hypotheses tend to become more extravagant, more convoluted, less simple? Here are some examples. The many fine-tuned anthropic parameters found in physics are attempted to be explained naturalistically by a hypothetical infinite multiverse of different actualities, yes, all somehow different from each other, which would make our universe not only probable under such circumstances, but inevitable, because with an infinite number of configurations it seems like anything can happen, and every possible thing will happen an infinite amount of times. The universe, the way that it is, would just be one possible way in an infinitely larger configurational possibility space, if the existence of such other infinite outcomes were true. How all those other outcomes might be different from each other is not clear. What would generate that? And then how do you account for whatever did the generating? With the complexities of living organisms, their creation is hypothetically explained by appealing to lots of time, some kind of hypothesized anomalous mutations of increased functional complexity, with natural selection. So if these hypothetical anomalous genetic mutations of increased functional complexity did sometimes naturally arise on rare occasions for nature to select from, then unguided evolution might be able to go against the observed natural trend of decay and increasing disorganization, and instead slowly climb up some hypothetical gentle slope behind the well-known mountain of multiple improbabilities, and therefore perhaps, in a localized situation, outpace the relentlessness of entropy everywhere else in the known universe. There is much speculation and imagination required in this particular idea. The asymmetry of the material in the universe is another problem for materialists. According to observations of how matter behaves, the matter and antimatter should have completely annihilated each other out of existence, right from the start, and yet we see plenty of matter still hanging around. A charge parity violation is appealed to, in order to try and find a reason for why matter exists. But so far, even here, such charge parity violation has not been able to account for what we observe. Other various asymmetries pose problems for pure naturalism. So the low entropy state of the universe at the beginning, the matter-to-antimatter ratio, the highly ordered, irreducibly functional, specificity in biology, the very specific values, balanced on a knife edge, found in the fundamental physical laws, and so forth, all require very non-parsimonious hypotheses, to try and offer a naturalistic explanation for their existence. There is nothing simple about it. And reductionist arguments simply do not work. This is what happens when you are philosophically committed to excluding God, as the ultimate explanation. Even though God can never be fully explained in human terms, it still looks like the best explanation, even if we might think it incomplete from our own inadequate human thinking. But just because we can't fully understand something, doesn't in itself eliminate it as an explanation. Some claim that you can't test God. It has been said, you can't put God in a test tube, as it were. The biblical perspective both agrees and disagrees with that. According to scriptural doctrine, it all depends on how you choose to do it. Of course, this logically assumes, not some polytheistic God from pagan culture, but the monotheistic God that created space, time, matter, and energy. Most likely the Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic, God, of biblical canon, Jehovah. Here is how we are encouraged to do it. In the Bible book of Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, God said to the people, "Bring the entire tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house, and test me out, please, in this regard," Jehovah of armies says, "to see whether I will not open to you the floodgates of the heavens and pour out on you a blessing until there is nothing lacking." In principle, you can apply this in many ways if you choose to believe it. But fundamentally, the claim is that if you do things God's way, you will benefit from it, and in a large way. Is this a scientific test? Well, that would depend on how you define science, would it not? Since the very basic meaning of the word science is to do with the gaining of knowledge, unlike many of its more modern naturalistic definitions, let's say. But in the book of Exodus chapter 17, verse 2, it gives us an explanation of how we should not put God to the test. It says about when the Israelites were at a place called Massa, so the people began quarreling with Moses and saying, "Give us water to drink." But Moses said to them, "Why are you quarreling with me? Why do you keep putting Jehovah to the test?" And so in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16, it says, "You must not put Jehovah your God to the test the way you put him to the test at Massa." So, it wasn't wrong to ask for water, but they disrespected God's arrangement by quarreling with his appointed representative. They were going against the will of God, and so their lack of faith in God turned out bad for them. At this point, some might assume, this seems rather tyrannical and dictatorial. Well, I suppose you could view the road rules the same way, and use your automobile the same way. Those seemingly tyrannical and dictatorial rules, and so you refuse to get your vehicle serviced on time, and just for good measure drive on the wrong side of the road. Of course, most people, in their right mind, would conform to the service intervals and road rules most of the time, because we have a fair idea of what the consequences might be if we didn't do that. We immediately understand that all those systems of engineering and regulations are there for a good reason, and they were constructed from intelligent processes. And yet there are those who prefer to believe that the universe was not intelligently constructed, and that there are no rules of morality from any higher source that we are required to obey. And many people down through the ages have behaved and lived in a way that disregards the possibility that there is a God. What have been the consequences of behaving as though God does not exist? We see the results everywhere in the world today: broken families, broken homes, war crimes, genocide, murder, theft, sexually transmitted diseases, so many of them, unwanted pregnancies, inbred children, various other forms of mistrust and distressful circumstances, and the expense of having to implement locks and alarms on your property and possessions, and to protect yourself from harm, from the wickedness lurking in the world around you at present. Ironically, many of the people who are against belief in God complain about the problem of evil in the world. Do they want God to do something about it, or not? Their position on this seems a little contradictory, don't you think? Of course, those with the atheistic neo-Darwinian philosophy will just say that it is all explainable by natural evolution, without a God, without an intelligent creator, and this is how the world was meant to be, just random mediocrity, full of war, injustice, and immorality, and only the lucky have rights, in the end, and, even they, are temporary. So how do we know what to believe? Would it be wise to put most of your trust in the most highly improbable explanation for the existence of our universe and the existence of life, and just live how you want to? Can there really be existence without responsibility and accountability? What are the odds of that? Do you really think that it is all here for no reason at all? Well, perhaps God will intervene one day, like the Bible teaches, and, if certain interpretations of Bible prophecy are true, very soon. How would you fare? Not so simple after all, is it?